So, thank you everybody for joining us again today. We are in our third and final for now, um, system admin training. So, and again, I'm Rachel Zeman, with Benelinx. Thank you guys for joining us. A couple of things. We're going to jump right into the system admin behind the scenes. Um, Object Manager. And I know I talked a lot about AI last week or last session, so I know that we've mentioned the importance of understanding kind of how to think about what the needs are of your business and how to translate that into fields, which then lead to page layouts, the visibility for your users, which then leads to the dynamic lightning pages we're going to talk about today, which then leads into some automation. And always automation comes last, which most people want it to go first. Um, but that's that translation of, right? What do I need? What is the outcome I'm looking for? What are the analytics? What am I trying to measure? What's meaningful? And then back into that all the way down to the field level. So we're going to review a few things because we kind of had to rush a little bit last time. That's why I wanted to extend this session, spend a little bit more time. I'm going to build some fields so we can kind of walk through the process a little bit more. So we're going to quickly review the objects and the record types. Objects are the main categories of our data, collection of our data, right? Accounts, contacts, policy, services, etc. Record types like business, client, carrier, partner. So we're going to quickly review that on the back end where that lives. We're going to spend more time on fields relationships. We'll build a couple more different types of fields so you can kind of see the options there. Once we build the fields, we have to put them on the page layouts, which is the back end page layouts. Once those are on the page layouts and we decide how we want to see the information, then we have to add them, those fields, to the lightning pages. Also, it feels like double work because it is. Um, but lightning pages are really, really helpful from the user experience where we can do more things with lightning pages than just page layouts in the back end. So it is double. And I'm going to talk about the importance of mirroring the lightning pages on the front end with the back end page layouts, and why that's important to get as close as we can to mirroring the two. Compact layouts, which is the preview at the top of our pages. So it gives us a kind of a quick hit of the fields that are on the page, kind of that live at the top, which is kind of by our paths. We're also going to go through some of the other features in the object manager that we didn't get to last time to just kind of give you an overview and some advanced automation for those super savvy technical folks. So again, standard objects versus custom objects. Okay. So, quick preview. Again, how do we get to the back end? If you're system admin, you have to have a specific license, a system admin license. Users can go in and they can actually go to this gear and go to the back end, but they have no functionality. So you have to have a system admin license, but we can go to the setup. And that takes us into the back end of Salesforce. We talked about this last week. And again, Salesforce tells us where we're at by highlighting or underlining. And so the default is the home, but if I pivot to my object manager, that's going to give me the full list of objects that are in the system. And again, custom objects versus standard Salesforce objects. For those folks that are ISV clients, meaning you have already bought Salesforce, you have a direct contract with them versus the OEM. Just important difference is that you might have been already using the accounts and contacts. Salesforce owns those two objects. We have to share them with everybody. Any managed package, not just Benelinx. And so you can see by the type which ones are standard, which are the Salesforce. Now, this is their full list, right? And you, within the Salesforce ecosystem, the Benelinx managed package is in the Sales Cloud. And so this is going to be your comprehensive list of all objects that are in the Sales Cloud, all objects that also include the Benelinx custom objects, as well as any other custom objects from maybe other managed packages like Conga Composer. So it's a very large list. You may or may not have access to all of these objects, depending. You might not be using all of them. And so a couple ways to get to where we need to go quickly is we can use the quick find, or we can reverse label, right? We can go the other direction if we would like, going into those objects, right? You can actually create custom objects here as well. if you're interested. If there's a use case where you want to have a whole new category of how you're collecting your clients' data. Okay. Talked a little bit about how do we identify the custom versus standard versus managed package. And we can tell by the API name. So, a couple things about label versus API. System admin specifically, when you go to build fields, you go to build list views, you go to build objects, you have two basic label types, right? When you're creation, you have a label and you have an API name, and you can see they're basically identical with some slight variations. Okay. It can be a little annoying when you're building fields because it feels like you're building duplicates. There is a significant amount of value, though, big picture of the label, which is what you see on the front end versus the back end API name. The API name is what we're going to use for code. And so we can change the label, right? One of the values is I can change the label and not have to change my code to match that. So keep the code, the API name, change the label, so it doesn't break your automation, which includes any custom flows, Apex code, etc. So that's the reasoning why we have both. What do we want the front end people to read and see versus the back end? And I'll show you a little trick of how we can override the Benelinx labels. Because we are a managed package, there's certain things we can't do, but we have ways that we can do it, work around. I don't even love that term, but anyway. So going down the list, you can see the standard objects, they tell us what they are. This is going to apply also when we look at our fields. We can also tell if it is a managed package object or field, there will be a prefix, BLX. There's also going to be a suffix of a custom, so a C. So that's how we can define and see quickly which ones are ours, which ones are not ours, right? Which ones were maybe built in the system with the suffix of a C, and which ones come to us from the Benelinx managed package, which is the BLX. Standard objects don't have anything. They have no prefix or suffix, so those inherently we can tell are coming from Salesforce. Okay. That's just a brief overview of our objects. I'm going to go into accounts. Yeah, we'll go into accounts. So again, once I'm inside an object, you can see on the left-hand side, we kind of have a menu of options. This is where we're going to dig into a couple other features as we go down the list, and we're going to explain a few things here on the left-hand side that we didn't get to. If I'm in a Salesforce standard object, right, there's certain things I cannot do. I don't have an edit button here. If I go back to a Benelinx object, I do have an edit. Important things to remember here is what can I do with it? So you can see when we have labels, we're creating those for you. We can go down the list. This is where we decide if we're having a number, an auto-generated number, or if we're having a text field, what type of formatting we want for that number that's auto-generated. And then really important things where do we want to be able to track this? Do we want it reportable? And do we want to allow activities? Some people go, well, why wouldn't I want all of those? We have objects behind the scenes that help us with automation, and Benelinx managed package, there's probably about half the objects you guys don't even see that help us with automations, etc. And so with those, you may or may not need all those features, so you have the option of turning them on and off. And obviously we can also deploy or not deploy. Okay. Going down the list, so items we're going to go through today again, and we'll talk a little bit about the field tracking, which I think is, again, really, really important as we start thinking about AI, is how we're going to identify the fields that are in the system already. And again, then we can build new fields. We can remove them if they're ours. We cannot delete managed package fields. So if they're ours, we can delete them. And we can set the tracking history. Okay, this is one of those items that if we go in and we set field tracking, and Salesforce has given us extensions on this, so we have more, and there's actually a place in the home that I can view all of my field tracking across objects. I'm in an object right now called Actions, but in the home tab, I can go field tracking, I can look for field tracking, and I could see them across all the different objects. My hypothesis on why Salesforce is doing this is because AI is becoming more and more of a use case, and when we start unleashing AI to do automations and updating records, then if the records get updated incorrectly, as we talk about a lot in training, deleting a record is one thing. We can retrieve it from the recycle bin. If I update a field like the SIC code or the eligibility, right, record or the policy number, right? If I change the value in that field, the old field data is gone, right? So if I add field tracking to that field, then if someone goes in and changes the value of that field, like policy number, the system will track the old value. It'll track the new value. It'll tell you who updated it and when. So that gives us the ability to revert if we need to. And so I'm a big believer that Salesforce has enhanced the field tracking capabilities. They've enhanced the number of fields that we can track per object. And you can buy additional features with Salesforce to even up that number more. And my, again, theory is that it'll continue to increase because the more we track field level, then if we have to revert, we have the history to be able to do that. Okay. Now, the big thing is here, right, that we talked about before, if we don't set the field tracking and data gets overridden, it's gone. There's no recovery because there is no field tracking set up. So this is something you have to do ahead of time. So what I usually recommend for folks during the onboarding process is to really think about, at each of the object level, right? So it's accounts, the contacts, policies, every field at each of my object level, what fields are really important that I would want to retrieve, that if that data got overridden, that I would want to know what the original value was so I can replace it. So field tracking is really important, and we'll talk more and more about that as we move into AI. Okay. So again, as we go through fields and relationships, I can see the label again. I can see the field name. I can sort this list. So I can see all the different options. I can sort it by the types. We're going to build a couple fields here today, but you can see down the list. Best way I teach people how to use the system, we talk about cloning or saving as if I'm building a report, is to start with looking at an example, right, of a field that is similar, right? That'll help a lot when you're building your own. So you can kind of see the example of, oh, okay, if I build a multi-pick list or I build a phone number, what does that look like? So feel free to open up an example to give yourself an idea of how that field is built, especially lookup fields, because there's some additional filters we can add to those fields. And so there's some a little bit more complexity around that. Okay, so I can see which fields are ours. We've got a ton of fields in here. I can tell by the BLX. I can see the type of field. And then again, we can go in and take a look at some of these fields that are examples. I have one that's not a Benelinx field. Doesn't look like it. And how it's kind of built. So we go in and look at an example of the data points, and there's other options here for validation potentially. Highly recommend best practice because there are a lot of fields already in your system, whether they're ours, whether they're another managed package field or they're Salesforce standard fields. I do also highly recommend looking before building, right? So I tell my team all the time, when we're doing onboarding, let's repurpose a field if we can versus build another one. It helps a lot with creating duplicates, right? Fields that we might be able to see on our list view. So we don't want to clutter up the system by creating a similar field, right? That is not exact. Can we repurpose an existing field that is similar, and reuse it and maybe add some additional pick list values, for example. So I always recommend take a look at what you have first before you build new. If you can, repurpose that field. Okay. Meaning go in, let's see if we can use it again. There's things that we can do to repurpose this so I can see what values I have here. Maybe I can use this field if I need to add some values, remove them, versus go in and build a brand new field that's called something similar. Instead of compliance types, it's compliance values. Okay, so there is a lot of value in doing that so you don't clutter the system. Reusing what you have available. Like I said, with folks on the front end, A lot of times when we're building list views, excuse me, um, they can see the list of fields here when we're building those list views. And so, oops, so if we can repurpose, there's just less clutter, right? Less confusion. I've got similar fields here, instead of having the multiple fields that are visible to your users, there's ways we can get rid of them with profiles and permissions. But so go check, see if we can repurpose them. Um, if we can, that's great. Even if that means we need to make some adjustments. I better tell you this now before I forget. So Benelinx fields, see how it says if it's a Benelinx field, and I can tell by the API name, right? If I go in to edit this field, there are limitations on what you can do with the Benelinx manage package fields. We deploy them through a package. They're available to all of our users. There's certain things that you can and cannot do with manage package fields. Standard, any managed package. This isn't specific to Benelinx. It's any managed package, which includes like the Conga Composer, etc. So in this situation, like I said, if I like this field, but I don't like the label, and I want to repurpose this, I cannot change the label of this field. I'm going to show you a trick. So you can't change it here, but there is this cool feature in the home called override. So I can go to the override. Once I get back here, I'm going to decide what package, and you can see there's some managed packages in this system. I'm going to decide what I want to change. I want to change a custom field, right? That's a managed package field. And I'm going to check my actions object. I have to find it, right? And what was that? Compliance something. Yeah, compliance type. This is where I can change the label values. So this is what we do with our clients when we onboard. If the client's like, I don't like the label that you gave us, Rachel, I want to change it. This is a great option for repurposing a field. So we're not building a bunch of fields that are very, very similar. And now I have just told the system, and again, it's only going to apply to the label. So it's not going to break any code. And then if I go back to this field and look at it on the front end, it's changed the label for us. I'm just going to show all data here because let's go look at it. Oops. Okay, right here. See how it's changed? So if I pull that onto my page layout, there it is. So that's the trick. The value of repurposing, wanting to change the label from what we give you, won't break the code. You can go into the override, change the label, make sure it saves. It's a little finicky sometimes. And again, you have to pick your package. You have to pick that you're changing a custom field, and then you have to pick the object and then go find the field alphabetically. Change the label, save it, go find it, check it. Okay. So that's a little trick, right? So you can customize things. That's what we do to help our clients have a better user experience when they want to change the label without having to build a duplicate field, essentially. Okay. Nice little trick. So new field, let's go build a field or two. Lookup relationship. Let's build a lookup relationship. We built a pick list value field last time. Let's start with a lookup. So this is going to be where we're looking up to another record. So I'm going to go lookup field. I'm going to tell what object I'm pulling it from. Let's do contacts, shall we? Okay. So it's going to look up to that object. Some people ask us during onboarding, can I have it look to an account or contact? And you can see here the limitation. You have to pick one. You can't pick multiple objects that it's looking up to. And I'm going to relabel it, right? And it's going to connect the old record to the new. Again, when I'm building any field, I can put a description. And this is going to be test Rachel delete leader. I can't spell today. Sorry. And that this is not visible to the user, but this is, okay? So if I have help text here, this is going to be visible as that I on that field. Lookup fields are really helpful because it's going to now look up to a contact record. But again, feedback we get from clients is, I don't want it to look up every contact. I only want to be able to see maybe the contacts that are the carrier contact record type. So I can add a filter here. This is where we're going to look up and say I want contact and the record type name. Some of this you have to, kind of go through a couple examples, equals, and I'm going to put carrier. This is where now when I go to look up a contact, it's not going to show me all. It's only going to show me contacts where the record type of that contact, the record type label or name is carrier. So if I have a broker producer contact or a partner contact or an employee contact, it's not going to show up in my lookup when I'm looking for that record to relate it to. Really important. We talk about a little bit profiles and permissions. Okay, so this is additive. We want to be able to decide who can have access to this field. And I always open this up and then decide based on my permissions from Benelinx. Great thing is we're a B, so it's at the top, not the bottom. And I can decide who I want to give access to. These permissions are assigned to our users. So if I say, oh, I don't want to give this access to my quoting users, I can undo. In addition, then, we might be able to see the profile. In this particular example, it's not. So this is the page layout. This is the back end page layout. If I want to add this field, it's giving me all the page layouts I have available for this particular object. So our actions, record types, the record type matches the page layout, so they could be different or the same. And I can decide, do I want to add, before I save this field, do I want to add it to all of these or not? I'm going to add it just to my general inquiry. It's going to add it to the back end page layout. I'll show you in a minute. And in addition, then I may want to add it to my related lists. In most situations, I'm going to uncheck this. I don't want to add it to. This would be if I wanted to see us like an inverse relationship for testing purposes. I'm going to say no. Hit save. You notice that it didn't ask me to add to the lightning pages. We don't have lightning pages on this particular object. Okay. So field has been added, right? What do we have here? What do I call it? Look up contact, right? So here it is. There's my field. It's looking up. Now, if I go into the back end, I can see my page layout. A lot of times we have, based on our record types, right? This is our record type for all the different record types for this object. We have a one-to-one. We have, for every record type, we have a unique page layout. Why? Because I may want to capture very different information on my billing action versus my claims. I may want to capture claim-related fields, right? So typically, when we have page layouts, those mirror our record types. It's kind of a one-to-one. In addition, a lot of times then we'll also have page layouts. We'll have lightning pages that mirror those, also each record type. So that's the logic. It's kind of a duplicate effort. If I have an object with record types, then I have multiple page layouts, usually the same number of page layouts as I have record types because I want to have different fields, on the different pages. And then I also have potentially different lightning pages for each record type, which is the front end. Okay. So I added that field to the general inquiry only. So when I open up the page layout, went into the right record type or page layout for that record type, and now you can see the top here. This is my menu, essentially, and I can close this and I can open it depending on the size of your screen. There's lots of buttons here. On the left-hand side, there's a mini menu, and you can see the default is fields. This is my whole list of fields in this object. And the ones that are grayed out are the ones that are on the page already. Okay. I added it to the page layout, so you can see Salesforce dumps all new fields when we build them on the page layout, right under the information on the bottom left. So if I added 5 fields, they'd all show up right here, one after the other. So once we build the field, the importance of putting them on the page layout is twofold. A, they dump them all here so we can have a mess. So we want to move them around if I want to move that field then after the fact. So I move things around on the page when I'm done. The other really important component of putting new fields on the page layout first, then the lightning page. If I don't add this field to the page layout and I just add it to my lightning page, because you can do that, it's not going to bark at you and break. You can't inline edit. You can't add it to your list view and do the editing. It's going to have a lockbox or a lock on it. That's what happens if we get sloppy, right? If we don't have the field on the page layout and we just add it to the lightning page, I can do that. But then when I go on the front end and I want to build my list view and I want to see that field and I want to be able to edit that field, right, on my list view, it's going to be locked. You're not going to be able to edit it. So make sure, even though it's double work, because it is, add it to your page layout, clean up your back end page layout, put it in the place that you want it. All right, drag and drop. I can see the fields if I want to add more. I can add them here, drag them down. And again, looking to the right, I can edit my whole section and I can see the properties with the wrench. I can decide order, etc. Information, I can change the section label. I can, and at the field level, I can also click the wrench, and this is where I can make it read only or required. This is the first level of defense, right? With building out fields and putting them on the page layout for visibility to my users. Now, up until about 5 years ago, this was the only option. When you built a page and you added the page layout and you built this page design, when you went in as a user on the front end, anything that you had built out would show here exactly based on the page layout. Well, Salesforce came out with lightning pages, so it's an added component on top of the page layout that's a drag and drop. It gives us lots of increased flexibility. And so if we have our lightning pages enabled, this isn't enough. If you add it here and you go look for it here and you have lightning pages enabled and you did not add that field to your lightning page also, not just your page layout, it won't show up. Okay? So just be aware of that. It's a double work. It's double work. That's what we're doing right now for you on the back end. Someday, hopefully, so Salesforce will merge those. Until then, there's definitely more value of having lightning pages than not. And so we've enabled most of our objects with lightning pages for that reason. So just be aware. Add it here. If I save this and I go look for it, it's not going to show up if I have lightning pages enabled. Okay. So this layering effect, right? Every time you guys ask us to build a field, we have to go build the field. We have to add it to the page layout, and then we have to add it to the lightning page. Okay. Other things quickly about page layouts. If I build a new page layout, I want a different page layout than what we've given you. You have to make sure you assign it to the right record type. So you can see if I have claims, I have a claims layout. If I have billing, I have to have a billing layout, right? So if I don't assign it, again, where are we not seeing? Why are we not seeing the information? That's one of the reasons. Okay, I'm going to go to my my accounts. Pivot to quick way to get to the back end again. If I go here, I can duplicate, I can go, then I could go to my gear, I can go set up and go through the back end. Or if I'm going into my account object, I'm in an account record right now, I can skip a couple steps and I can go right to edit object. Okay, so takes me to the same place. I have my page layouts. Let me back up. I have my record types. Boom, 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 right? Active, inactive. I have my page layouts that match those record types. I have them assigned. So if I build more record types, you have to build the page layout. You have to build a record type, build a page layout that mirrors it, assign the page layout to the record type so it matches, right? And then we can go in where I just was, and that's where we can see then the basic page layout design. And I can see where everything is, and I can decide to move things around if I like, right? Drag and drop. One thing about the menu, we only talked about fields. If I scroll up just a tiny bit here, because we are living in the lightning experience, my buttons are not going to be under buttons, they're going to be under mobile and lightning. And then I can decide if I want to add buttons to my page that I want visible. And you can see these buttons on my account mirror, so I can drag and drop them down, but I have to select. I can't look at it at the field level. It won't let me drag it down in there. See how it won't let me? So I have to make sure I'm in the right section. Then I can start moving my buttons down on the page so that I can see them. Lastly, on the bottom, we also have a related list. So I can add, so this is my account and I have my related list and I can update in what fields do I want visible when I'm looking at the contacts. Maybe I want date of birth added. Again, available fields, old school, select, move it over, drops at the bottom, move it up. Okay, I'm not going to save that one. Related lists are, when I go here, my related lists, or my related contacts. What fields do I see on this related list? That's where I can manage it on the back end. Okay. Next level, lightning pages. Okay. Lightning pages are a duplicate again of our page layout, but it gives us enhanced capabilities. So there's a lot of value of having lightning pages and having them enabled. Couple things, because we have ISV clients and OEM clients, we have duplicate lightning pages. We do that so we don't have to build lightning pages every time we deploy a new our managed package, but you'll notice the ones that say in use are the ones that are activated. So you can see what is activated here. Let's edit. So let's take a look at. So a couple things about the page layout and the lightning page. The page layout is the back end. We use the page layout to pull the plan design, the page design in to our lightning page. So that's one of the importance of it, right? If I build out my page layout correctly, I can then pull that mirror image of how the page is designed and the headers into my lightning page. So that's important. So we want those to match so I can pull it forward and not have to rebuild this page from scratch. I can pull in the sample from the page layout so I can see all the fields and the sections here without having to build them one at a time. Okay. So that's important to start. Secondarily, then we're going to save our page, our lightning page, and I'm going to show you the drag and drop here in a minute. And if we don't activate it, it's a one-time activation. Activating it means it's basically going live, okay? And you can decide the app that you want to activate the lightning page on. So sales, maybe we want our commission app. We can go through, we can decide what apps we want to assign it to. Just click a couple here. We can decide what record types, important, right? This is the business client. We want to make sure we mirror those because a lot of the stuff that we build in the back end pulls forward. We want to then also decide what profile, right? What users do I want to see or not see this lightning page? Okay, go and select. It's going to give us a preview, and then we save. We have to activate for us to be able to see. This one's already activated. So there's creating a lightning page, there's saving it. We can change the label here, but then it will not show up until we activate it. We're telling it where do we want to see it, at the app level, at the record type level, at the profile level. So the users, some users, we don't want to see certain things. So we may have very unique activation for different lightning pages based on our users. Similar to kind of the reporting functionality, I would say. This is very much if you've ever built a website. We have components on the left side. You can see again, Salesforce tells us where we're at by highlighting and underlining. So we're in components, and here are all the component options. Some of this might look familiar, like a path. Maybe I want to add the path. I drag and drop my components. The component is simply the ability to build the page. It's not the data in that section. It's literally just giving me the ability to add. Maybe I want to add a tab here. So as I click on the page, this is my preview. I have my components. I could drag and drop. I can get rid of it just like my garbage can. But as I click on the page, the right-hand side tells me a lot about this lightning page. I can go all the way back. I can see the name of the lightning page. I can see the template. I could change the design here if I wanted to. And as I click on the components that are already here, see how this changes? See, this is a tabs component. I can find tabs over here. If I click up here, this is my highlights panel. Guess what? I can go over to my left and I can find the highlights panel. That component has been dragged and dropped here, just like this. See that? So it's telling me what components are already on the page by clicking on the section, and then on the right, it tells me where I'm at. This is my field section over here. I can see it's my potential duplicates. And again, these are my components that I've drug up onto the page, drag and drop, and it's telling me what components I have. And I've got more tabs here, and then under that, I've got my activities. So you can see this is kind of a builder. So we always start with components. We have to drag them onto the page. The components is highlighted, it's the default. Okay. And then where I'm at depends on what I've already have built. I'm in the tabs. I could add more tabs here if I wanted to, right? And then on the right, here's the list of all my tabs. I could add new ones. I can move them around if I want, right? So now you can see it's going to change once I save it. So very much drag and drop, very much, deciding how I want the design of the page. Okay. Couple things then. I can also add fields. Okay. So one thing about this page is that we have the ability to enable our lightning pages and the components in it. And this one is already enabled. So we already have the ability, and it breaks up the page into fields. Really important, right? Because if I want to make this dynamic, I want to be able to break up the components on the field so then I can add different fields to the page myself. So I can grab the fields, and again, alphabetically, I just start dragging and dropping. And now again, just like the page layout on the back end, I can actually add the fields onto my lightning page. It can get messy real quick, right? If I do it here, but I don't do it on the page layout, again, if anybody remembers, I cannot do inline editing. That field will be locked when I go to build my list view. So building it out, it seems like it's double work because it is, but it's really important to make sure your lightning pages, if I change this and I save this to go into the back end, meaning the page layout, okay, go back here, go into the back end, page layout, two different sections, page layout versus my lightning page, and make sure I update my page layout based on my record type here. So I want to make sure it matches. Feels like work because it is. It's double work, but it's important to keep those aligned. So if I add annual income here, I'm going to go find annual income, and I'm going to drag it down here and align it up, right? So I'm going to match the two so it aligns, and then I save, okay? I only have to activate the lightning page once unless I change the visibility. So once it's activated, I can just hit save, and it's going to save these fields on the page, okay? So I can drag and drop my fields over to the page. Why are the lightning pages so helpful? We can do a lot with the dynamic nature of the fields without having to create additional record types. We can clean up the page. For example, see when I see this orange eyeball, this means that this field is dynamic. On the right-hand side, I can see the behavior. So what we have set here is to say, we only want the field type, this field, when it equals terminated. Our type field is like enforce, prospect, terminated. I only want to see the field when the type value equals terminated client. So it's going to be hidden until I flip this value, and then it's going to be visible. It keeps that page beautifully clean, right? It's going to close and open, and those dependencies of the if then, if then. This has helped so much with the scrolling pages forever, right? Tons and tons of fields on a page where people, your users are going to go through and they're trying to figure out where to find the one field, right? We can collapse and open, which keeps the pages nice and clean and tight. It helps with the user experience. That is right there one of the biggest reasons why lightning pages are so powerful, okay? So we can add a bunch of dependencies. I can also then make it required or maybe have none. I can just have it visible when the value is turned to client terminated. I can also say, yeah, and by the way, before you can save the record, I want it required, which is even better. So now we're going to guarantee capture of that information when the client terms. I can change the values still. I can go here and I can change the label of my sections. Again, one other really important value is I can pull fields through. So I can actually go through a related record and find a field under my Ben admin and pull it into. In the past, this is kind of next level for those higher level users. In the past, we had to build formula fields for everything. If I wanted a field that was under the Ben admin account record, I would have to go into my business client, build a formula field, and then be able to put it on the page. Now I can actually pull through that related lookup record and go find the field that I want and add it here. It's beautiful. Cuts down again on building formula fields just so I can see it on the page. Anytime I see this arrow, I can pull through. I can go from where I'm at, go through this related record and into that record and pull data in. It's fabulous. Okay. So components and fields, components are basically the pages that I'm building. We can then activate. We can also make the page dynamic, right? I break it apart. So then I can go in and I can add more fields and I can make them dynamic. We're running out of time again. So other areas, then we activate once and then we can save and return to our front page and take a look at how the page changes. Control-Shift-R is my favorite thing in the world. As any of you know that have been using Salesforce, refresh, 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 if you don't see it. Lightning pages can take a little while to activate, so be patient. And go back and check. It's really annoying because if you're in the middle of building something and you want to just confirm it's done and it's not updating, then you kind of have to try to get it to force itself to reload. One way you can also check is you can go back. I can go back to my object, but I can also go into the page. This opens my lightning page. I can go in and I can check it. Hit the Control-Shift-R. We can see what's already built in here. Okay. My related lists, again, I can decide. I can build those related lists on my page layout on the back end, but I can also control them here. See where I can make this dynamic, and now I can decide what fields I want also on this page, and I can decide where they live. Okay, see how that's changing? I can decide what buttons I see, right? And one thing I've learned, took me a while, this whole section I can copy and I can paste the whole section. Ooh, time saver, right? Now I can change the filter. That's what we did down here. Change the filter and you're good to go. Okay, lots and lots and lots and lots of things you can do here. We don't have time for it today, but I wanted to share that with you. The related lists, I can even break up my highlights panel, see how I can upgrade. If I do that, it's going to break apart. It's going to ask me, I want to migrate, go to the next, grab my compact layout. And now it's going to break it apart. See, now I can see all of the buttons that I have available and I can go in from here, just like I can on the page layout, and I can decide what I want to see. Okay. It broke it apart. So now when I make this dynamic, really important to note, this is overriding my page layout. Okay. If I don't enable my lightning pages and I don't make this components dynamic, the default will be back on the back end. It'll look back to, where's my, back here. It's going to look back to my buttons. It's going to look back to my page layout, the fields, the sections, the compact layout. That's that preview screen at the top. It's going to look here if I don't break it apart on the lightning page. Another reason why we want them aligned. Okay. Once I break that out and make it dynamic, this is the truth over the page layout, the compact, the buttons. Okay, so once I activate, this is going to be what the users are going to see. That's why as we enable landing page, we want to match them up, right? As much as possible. Do the homework, go in the back end, make sure everything is lined up, right? The other reason I mentioned this in the last call is if I delete this lightning page on accident, if I go here and I go here and I delete this, because I can delete, it is not retrievable. Salesforce has not given us the ability to recycle lightning pages yet. I'm hoping it's going to come soon because that's terrible. Because there's a lot of things on the lightning page that we can't even do on the page layout. I can't make fields dynamic on the page layout. So once it's gone, it's gone. So we have to be really careful what we're going to delete. Again, just like anything, should we ever delete anything? Some people say no. I argue that a little bit, but if I delete, it's gone, gone. So another reason why it's really important to make sure our page layouts match as much as possible so that if we need to go back here and recreate what got lost, we have at least a close replica, right? Because the page layout is different than our lightning page. I could go here and I can start to rebuild that lightning page if this matches what's on the front end. Okay, so be really careful with that. It's not the end of the world, but it's, there are a lot of components here. We have lots and lots of clients that have lots and lots of dynamic filters on their lightning pages. So if it's gone, it's gone. Okay. All right. All right, let's go back to the rest of the buttons. Okay, or the rest of the features here. Got a few more minutes. Buttons we're not going to spend too much time on. This is where the buttons come from. You have to have the buttons built. They live here, then we can add them to the page layout. It's that building effect, right? You can see some of the buttons that look familiar that are coming from the managed package. I can open up, for example, Conga, and I can see these are our queries and how this button gets executed. Compact layouts are just that preview page. So if I go back here, this is our compact layout. The lightning page component is called a highlights panel. Why they call it two different things, I have no idea. Highlights panel equals compact layout. But that's what it looks like on the back end. That's how I decide what fields I can see. There are limitations on what fields I can put in there. Record types we talked about, right? Breaking up the different categories. A couple other important fields or ways that we can look at data. Anybody ever curious on where my list, my default recently viewed, the list of fields that go on this recently viewed? Anybody ever curious on how does the system know what fields to put here? It's not a mystery. If I go to the object and I go to search layouts, these fields are what are the default, meaning what will appear on your recently viewed. Because we can't edit this, right? Nobody can edit this. So how do I manipulate what fields I see here? Because I don't like those, maybe. I change them here. And it's under, where was that at? Search layouts. Maybe I want this shipping zip code. Fax number. Yeah, that'll make someone laugh. Fax numbers. Nobody uses fax numbers anymore. There you go. See? That's how I do it. Go back again, search layouts. Anybody ever curious where the buttons on the object live? So if I go to accounts, see there's buttons over here? If I just click on the object buttons, see there's buttons here, there's different buttons here. Where do those live and how do I change what I can see here? List view, button layout. I can decide what I want to see right here. Down the list, hierarchy columns, that's that parent-child relationship. If I have, let's say, a parent account related to a child account, I can decide how I want to see the hierarchy of data if I can see if I have one here. If I go back to my account, my hierarchy, do I have the hierarchy? Yeah, if I go here, that's how I decide what fields I want to see in this hierarchy button to see that relationship. What fields are here are dependent on what I build here in my columns. Okay, so if I put a bunch of fields here, that's where the hierarchy is going to show. This is helpful too, object access, if you're like curious on, how come I can see this object, can I not? I can see it by permission set groups or profiles. What visibility does this object have across a bunch of my users, okay? Validation rules are going to give us the ability, you can see some of these where it's triggering a requirement. Most of these are going to be coming from the Benelinx managed package that if, let's say, I am going to try to look up a broker and add a broker producer to my field. It's going to make sure that it's the right record type. So it's not going to let me. So it's a validation. It's going to trigger. It's going to pop up an error message that says, hey, we don't have the right information here. You can set limits on the size of the fields, the values, etc. And conditional formatting gives us the ability to add, let me go back here and show you, I built a field for that. So conditional formatting, this is a field that I added conditional formatting that I could say in my conditional formatting, I can determine the risk level and then the value. So I can say if the icon, if the risk is low, medium, and high, I have a smiley, neutral, and sad face. And if I change the level here, you can see, hopefully Salesforce will update this at some point because the icons are a little dated, but give it a little color. And obviously it's going to pull your attention, right? So we can set the criteria. So if then it's going to display an icon. Okay. One way for this level, for the validation, if I go back to my Lightning page, and you can see that conditional formatting, right? If I go back to my Lightning page, I go to that field and you can see that I have the conditional formatting set here. So the conditional formatting I had created, I set it at the field level, and now I can see that that has already been set. If I want to build a different one, I can create a different rule. Let's see what we got. And then we can decide. We decide what icon, and again, we're a little bit limited on our options. We can decide color scheme, right? And then we can say if then, type equals enforce. Okay, so we've added and created a rule. We're going to add that rule here. And now we've got it added. And you can see that now we have that conditional formatting added to that field. If I save, you don't have to activate. And I go back, I'm making a mess of my trial org. That's okay. I go back here. And now you can see when I've got that conditional formatting in there, and if I change it to a different value because I didn't have it set, then it goes away. Okay, so little things that can make a big difference, right? Things that we're enhancing over time with our clients, as far as, again, adding some color to the page is always helpful. And so it's nice to be able to add a few items that really going to, again, draw our attention. We've had several clients that we've added kind of that risk level. So flow triggers, again, if we look at that, the last thing is that this is where we're going to have visibility into our custom flows that are built, or flows that are built into the managed package. So highest level, again, as a review, we're running out of time, is again, we're going to go in to our object manager. We're going to find the object that we're looking for. We have, from the object, we have our record types, our page layouts. The backend page layout should match our record types because they are different. We capture different information on our different record types. Make sure your page layouts are enabled. Boom, or assigned. Secondarily, we have Lightning pages that match our page layouts, right? We have to activate our Lightning pages for them to show up. I can make those Lightning pages dynamic, which allows me to break up the page even more and make the fields on that Lightning page dynamic. Components, drag them in. I can break this up by enabling the dynamic nature, and then I have the ability to drag and drop and move stuff around, right? I have the ability to make the pages or the fields dynamic, and I can see the preview on the right-hand side. I save that. I can go back without saving. I can copy and paste sections, and I only have to activate once. Once I have the activation set like I want at the right app and record type and profile level, Then I'm good to go. I don't have to activate it every time. Building fields. We only got a chance to build one more field, the lookup field, but that's important. So now we go down the list and we can build a bunch of different fields, getting comfortable with the different field types. Currency field, for example, I can decide, do I want anything in the, with decimal points? Same thing with my number fields. Same thing with, let's see, what other fields? Percentage. I can decide if I want anything to the right of the decimal point. I want to make sure that when I build the field, I have to add it to my page layout. If my lightning pages is already activated, I need to add it to my lightning page. I can do it when I build the field, and I can also do it after. Just like most things with Salesforce. It's not a one-time deal. If you don't add it right to begin with, you can always add it later. So as I build the field, it's going to ask me, do you want to add it to the page? Do you want to add it to the lightning page? If I say no, but I change my mind, I can always go back into the lightning page and add it here. Okay, so it's not a one and done. You're not stuck with it. Okay. Compact layout equals highlights panel on lightning pages. And I can edit some of the buttons and visibility, and then more complex formula and automation, flows, validation rule, conditional formatting, which is for another day. And honestly, above my pay grade. I never figured out how to build flows. And I think I'm too old now. Maybe not. So that's the object manager. Hopefully that is helpful. I could have spent 4 more hours going through more detail, kind of feedback from you guys on wanting more, wanting different. We can always add more trainings, but this should give you a good foundation. Again, you can use Trailhead, you can use Salesforce searches, go in there, and there's lots and lots of tutorials, there's guides, there's resources to learn even more. And I even go through, and a lot of our team even will look things up because, things change. There's formulas that we can use that we get from now AI to help us build out more complex structures. But hopefully this gives you a good start.